The traditional purpose of education reflects the mastery-based learning approach. Mastery-based learning is part of the behavioral systems model, and its primary focus is self-correcting communication systems that modify behavior, and it closely follows state-based academic standards and objectives. The classroom setup and organization are set up in a lecture-style classroom that does not promote collaboration, but individual mastery. The teacher's role is to monitor student progress and set academic goals for growth and mastery. The curriculum is structured to give students prerequisite skills needed to advance in further academic units and potentially give success to minority and disadvantaged students. Does this approach really meet the needs of our 21st century learners and teach the whole child? Social cognitive constructivism emphasizes the collaborative nature of learning through social and cognitive means. Educational theorists have significantly influenced current trends in education. Vygotsky's social constructivism theory has directly impacted a social constructivist learning environment where learning happens through discussion, open communication, and cooperation. Knowledge is constructed within social contact and interaction. Children are naturally curious and actively engaged in their own learning and discovery, and teachers are guides and a model that children can follow to learn. Piaget called schema the basic building block of intelligence and a way of organizing information. Schema is a set of linked representations that we use to understand and respond to the world around us, and it directly impacts how children learn. Piaget also believed that children think differently than adults and go through stages of cognitive development. Bruner's constructivist theory supports the idea that learners construct new ideas based on their past knowledge. Learners rely on a cognitive structure to transform information, construct hypotheses, and make decisions. The work of these educational theorists has set the foundation for the modern classroom. Three of the most common instructional strategies are inquiry, math, and reading stations, and writer's workshop. Inquiry promotes critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. Within an inquiry-based model, students will be asking questions, making observations, predicting, analyzing, and communicating investigation results, which are all ideas that originate with constructivism. According to the National Science Education Standards, learners give priority to evidence, which allows them to develop and evaluate explanation that addresses scientifically oriented questions. Math and reading stations differentiate instruction based on student cognitive development to meet the student's learning needs. Writer's Workshop puts students in the center of their learning. Students learn writing through teacher modeling, mentor text, and discovery of writing techniques that they can apply to their own writing. Traditional lessons can be transformed into student-centered, constructivist learning situations. For example, a traditional science lesson on the scientific method would be reading about process skills and then writing the method in step-by-step order. There might be a teacher-centered activity, but there would be very little, if any, wonder and discovery. Students could put food coloring in water for plants to grow them and observe what happens. Results would be predictable and observations would be simple within the control of the teacher. An example of an inquiry-based science lesson to teach the scientific method is having students create their very own paper rockets and giving them a driving question: how do I make my rocket launch the farthest? Students choose the length of the rocket cylinder and get to launch them outside and record the distance traveled. This activity is best when there is a follow-up launch as well, after seeing what works well and what doesn't. Students will be communicating, collaborating, using creativity, and deepening critical thinking to solve problems. Another example of a traditional lesson in reading would be to have the class read a novel out loud with round-robin style reading and have teacher-directed questions occasionally. In contrast, a constructivist lesson would put students more in the center of their learning. While reading a novel, reading would be shared with many pauses for students to discuss and reflect on what they have learned with their peers rather than just the teacher. Students have more of a purpose for learning, and they could find inspirational quotes to record on a literature graffiti wall, and students could respond to each other to promote active engagement and ongoing communication. In collaborative groups, students could predict and write their own conclusion before the story ends to strengthen their creativity, inquiry, and wonder. Students would be making predictions and inferences from the text while mastering their own learning in an engaging way. Assessment in a constructivist classroom looks much different than in a traditional classroom. Assessment is ongoing, formative, and engaging. Rather than just pencil and paper evaluation, assessment could be integrated with technology to meet their 21st century learning needs. Students can respond on Twitter or a Twitter wall for exit slips in the classroom, writing a blog post with pictures, or using iPad apps where they were creating and communicating. After students learn a new concept, they can present in a real-world setting to get feedback from their peers and practice communication skills. Rubrics do not have to be teacher-made, but students can help create rubrics for hands-on activities, presentations, and writing assignments. Assessment is differentiated according to student learning needs. Therefore, students can have voice and choice not only in their learning process, but also in their assessment. Problem-based and project-based learning stem from the original pedagogy of constructivist ideas. The theory asserts that students learn best by experiencing and solving their own problems in situations that promote cognitive growth and social interaction. Students will learn content knowledge while they solve real-world problems. Students are in control of their own learning, and teachers serve as guides and facilitators of discovery, inquiry, reflection, and questioning. Problems are not solved in isolation, and students collaborate and communicate with each other. Problem-based learning emphasizes solving a problem but does not necessarily have an end project. Project-based learning involves a challenging task with a form of student presentation or creation. The essential elements of a PBL are launch activity, an engaging introduction that sparks student interest and curiosity, driving question, a question that gives students a purpose and it embodies the heart of the unit. 21st century skills. Students should be using 21st century skills such as collaboration, critical thinking, communication, creativity, and appropriately using technology. Student voice and choice. Students brainstorm and choose the resources and final product. Inquiry. Students have a meaningful purpose and high engagement when they participate in real inquiry, questioning, and discovery. Publicly presented product. When students present to a real audience, they care more about their products and presentation. At my school, Oakland Elementary School in Inman, South Carolina, we have embraced the project-based learning format. An example of a PBL unit that we are currently teaching in 4th grade is the Choose Kind unit, where students are solving the problem of bullying with kindness using the mentor text Wonder by R.J. Palacio. The unit name is inspired from a precept found in the book. The launch activity was creating kindness bracelets, where students create an acronym of how to be kind to others, and each letter is represented by a color to make a bracelet. The driving question is, how can one act of kindness change the world, and is on display on an interactive standards wall with a student-created butterfly to represent the butterfly effect of kindness. Students are using inquiry, voice and choice, and 21st century skills as they create their own precepts, Skype with older and younger students to give and get bullying advice, choose their own random acts of kindness, and brainstorm how to promote kindness in the community. The publicly presented project was building and teaching the rest of the school about a buddy bench that is currently on our school playground. It is a bench where students can go when they are feeling lonely to find a friend. In conclusion, meaningful learning takes place when students are engaged, challenged, and they have a real-world purpose. Teachers need to create instruction that best meets the learning needs of the 21st century learners. Traditional and mastery-based learning do not adequately challenge our students, but traditional lessons can be converted into constructive lessons when given social, cognitive, and inquiry elements based on the work of educational theorists. Constructive teaching that implements inquiry-based and project-based learning allows students to have a growth mindset, think creatively and critically, develop communication and collaboration, and make their own discoveries. When students take ownership of their own learning, they will be more motivated to learn the rest of their lives. Constructivist teaching transforms the students of today into the leaders of tomorrow.